Cornish, and this is the assignment. And starting this week, we're going to basically enter that time of year that's about gathering with loved ones, eating good food, being grateful for all of it, and like honestly buying stuff. It seems like Black Friday starts earlier, lasts longer than ever, but it's still just one day. Giving Tuesday, which says something about whether we're really making an effort to be charitable. At the same time, everybody seems to be stretched thin. So nearly a quarter of American households are living paycheck to paycheck. Many of them are asking for help on social media. So with so much need, obviously it can feel overwhelming to figure out how best to help. So today I'm talking with Sara Herschander, who covers philanthropy for Vox's Future Perfect, about how and why to put the giving back in Thanksgiving. Okay, Sara, welcome to the assignment.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
I should start a different way, which is, Sara, do you believe Christmas decoration should be out before Thanksgiving or after?
That is a great question.
I'll be judging you the whole rest of the conversation around this.
I mean, I've been seeing them since Halloween, which I find a little bit too much.
Shakespeare's guy.
I'm going to say after. I think I'm definitely an after person. Love the lights, but
give us a minute.
Yeah,
give us a minute.
We can wait for the season. Makes it more special.
So we were talking recently about how people are feeling about this economy. And there were all of these social media posts where people were like, these grocery prices are too high. My hummus costs too much. This bell pepper is too expensive. There are a lot of people in need. And then we saw the CEO of GoFundMe on CNN talking about how people were using it for essentials. So I think between that and kind of some of the tenor of the news stories, I have this feeling of more people than ever need some kind of help. Mm-hmm. And if I'm in a position to help, how do I? Because honestly, it's just kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to come and talk to you. Is this something you have heard, you are feeling? What does this sound like from the world of philanthropy?
Yeah. I mean, yes, both. And I talked to someone recently who described it as it feels like everything's on fire and I don't know where to point my hose. That resonates with me personally. I mean, I'm on social media. I do the doom scroll, and a lot of the time now, these doom scrolls also involve a lot of fundraisers, GoFundMe's for essential stuff. So somebody who can't afford their rent, who can't afford a really high medical bill, or maybe they care a lot about, a crisis that's happening around the world and they're trying to fundraise for that. So I think what's interested me in this topic is sort of this idea of people are doom scrolling and they're sort of getting desensitized to all of this. And that's a really big problem. That's the opposite of what we want to do. So I've been trying to work on some pieces that help people sort through the chaos, sort through all of their feelings about this, and kind of feel empowered to help. It's a fun thing. Giving is a cool, fun thing that gives you really cool aura, and more people should do it, especially right now.
I did not have aura farming on my bingo card for this conversation. I'm liking you bringing this energy. So this is the kind of news story I could do literally any year.
Yeah.
This year is different. And here's why. The government cutting grants, aid, support, funding. There's a whole world of people and services that we're getting help through the government inadvertently, right? Because it was funding various kind of nonprofits and projects. So that's one. And then two, the government shutdown. And then three, we've had this scenario now where more and more people are getting into debt with buy now, pay later, are struggling in one way or another. And they're not afraid. I think it's been a tiny bit destigmatized to turn to their public and say, guys, help me, in a way that I don't feel like you would panhandle your neighbors, so to speak, right? You wouldn't do it physically, but socially the stigma isn't there. So those are my three theories about why this year feels different. Break them apart. Tell me I'm wrong. Let's get into it.
I don't think you're wrong at all. I think, we can start with sort of the funding crisis. That's something that you're seeing affect everyday Americans, both in terms of, public programs. So things like SNAP, we saw that really scary time a couple of weeks ago when the government shutdown meant that 1 in 8 American families couldn't access the money they need to literally put food on the table every week. That's really scary. And then when we're talking about nonprofit organizations, which are the groups that these families go to when they need to get more food or when they need, medical help or anything, they're facing a really intense crisis this year. I think a lot of people don't realize that most nonprofits rely on government funding, that could be federal, state, or local, for a lot of their expenses. It is the single most important thing for them to cover their expenses, more than sort of your everyday donations. And so the fact that the current administration has been really, in some cases, fully just canceling grants, in some cases not fully fulfilling them. There are a lot of court cases still happening, so we're not sure exactly how to manage the budget this year. But the gist of it is a lot of nonprofits, most nonprofits even, are struggling with funding gaps because of those cuts. And a lot of these nonprofits are also dealing with higher prices, just like Americans have because of inflation. So Feeding America is spending a lot more on food than it used to. All of these organizations are also dealing with those higher costs. So that is, to me, that is like the number one thing that's made this year different in terms of actual funding. Giving is more important than it's ever been before because nonprofits are dealing with these gaps. I think you also mentioned sort of the GoFundMe economy, which I find endlessly fascinating. And
yeah, because it wasn't supposed to be a whole economy.
No,
right?
No,
it was supposed to
company.
Be like, extenuating circumstances. Sometimes you need to, it's no longer extenuating circumstances. It's just life.
Yeah. And in some cases, that's a good thing. Like, it's good that people feel comfortable, like, turning to their neighbors for help or turning to their virtual neighbors for help. And a lot of young people, I think, prefer to give in that way. Like, they prefer to give to like an individual they might be cynical about.
So if we're in this economy where you have one section of the economy, probably people who have stocks, who are doing really well, right?
Yeah.
They're traveling, they're spending a lot. They're buying the Apple iSock or whatever. And then you have this other group of people who are not doing as well, right? Like whatever gains they're making are getting eaten up by these costs. What is the state of giving this holiday season? Like, how generous are people right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think over the past few years, something we've seen is that fewer and fewer people are donating. I don't have the stats for this year yet, but I'm a little bit nervous about them. There's a specific organization that like tracks giving each year, and they like do surveys to see like what percentage of Americans give. Right now, I forget the exact stat, but it's way less than it was like 20 years ago. And that's literally because people are like, they can't afford it. Or they're giving in ways that we're not capturing as well. So it could be because of that GoFundMe economy that we talked about earlier. But as a general rule, I think a lot of Americans just feel stretched thin. And they've also done surveys on sort of why people are giving less than they used to. And I think almost half of people who like are no longer giving said it's because they think that wealthy people should be giving more, which is super fair because we have seen this wealth inequality growing.
Yeah. So in the age of the billionaire, there's a little bit of like why do I have to give?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think we'll see. I will say during that SNAP crisis that we talked about earlier, I heard from Charity Navigator, is one of these groups that is always like tracking giving through its website. Giving to food organizations, so like your local food bank, increased by like 580% that week. So I don't want to be too down about this.
Yeah, like people heard that as a need.
Yeah.
We're talking 42 million people. I'm still shocked by this number who get SNAP benefits. And instead of saying in the past, I think there was much more like, oh, welfare queens, who cares? People really felt this as their friends and neighbors this time around. And you're saying they stepped up and we're giving
in a huge way. And so that's like something that's given me hope over the past few weeks. Like maybe we will see a lot of people giving back. And again, there's so many different ways to give back. Not all of it is captured by these statistics telling us that Americans are giving less. So hopefully we see that this holiday season too.
All right, so that leads me to Giving Tuesday, one of the many day gimmicks that exist around the holiday.
Yeah.
Not to be a hater, but I also just learned about Green Wednesday, which
Ooh.
apparently the cannabis industry wants us to get into.
Wow.
Like we buy ahead so we can be stoned for the holiday. Don't ask. I didn't make this up.
Cool.
So instead of Green Wednesday, we're talking about Giving Tuesday.
Yeah.
And talk about how in an era where everyone needs $50, how do we think about who to give to, why?